Hey everyone! In this video, we will be talking about the hiker's journey from their first day to their end. If you haven't watched part 1 of this video, I recommend watching that first to get to know the hikers. There is a link to the video in the description below, or you can watch it later as I will leave a click box at the end of this video. Don't forget to like and subscribe. Thank you, and let's continue. It was January 23rd, 1959, at Sverdlovsk. Dyatlov spoke to some geologists and a pilot to receive some information about the route that the group would be taking up the mountain called Kholat. Dyatlov didn't seem to agree with them about the route, so he decided it with the group. And after it was decided, he was to send the final version for approval. But he never did. At 9 p.m., they boarded the train to Serov and arrived there on January 24th at around 8 a.m. Then from there, boarded onto another train at 7:30 p.m. to Ivdel. On the train, there was a drunk passenger who went up to the group and accused them of stealing his vodka, and he wanted it back. The group simply ignored him, but the man continued to harass and started a scandal. He was later apprehended by the conductor and was sent to the police. We never knew if Dyatlov's group actually stole the vodka, as the diaries didn't say. But we know for sure Dyatlov did not allow alcohol. It was not part of the preparing list for the hike. After that, they took turns watching their stuff all night. It was 5:30 a.m., January 25th. They finally arrived at Ivdel and left early after that to get on a bus to Vizhai. It was a 25-seater bus and was packed with many backpacks and pairs of skis. All their supplies was stacked up to the ceiling. Everyone on the bus had to sit in odd ways so there would be more room. The bus drove away from the highway for a detour and stopped at a village called Shipishna. There, the Dyatlov group got out and stretched their legs, and some even went off sightseeing. Suddenly, someone yelled, "The bus!" and everyone gathered to head to the bus stop. But they were too late and missed it. They tried to run to catch up to it, but the bus was getting farther and farther away from them. Just as they were about to give up the chase, the bus stopped for a girl who was going to the same place they were, to Vizhai. Not a moment too soon, they were finally back on the bus heading for Vizhai. They arrived at around 2 p.m. They first said goodbye to another group they met on the bus, Blini's group, who were heading to the west of Vizhai in a deep forest area. Dyatlov's group helped them load their supplies onto a truck, and then the Blini's group left, never to see the Dyatlov group again. The Dyatlov group then headed to a hotel, while Dyatlov himself went to the post office to send a telegram about their arrival at the checkpoint. He also sent a postcard to his father, his sister Rufa, and the rest of his family. It would be his last message to them. On the card it reads, and I quote, "Hello everyone. Today, 26, we leave on the route. We arrived well. On February 12 and 15, I will visit Sverdlovsk. I probably will not go home, so let Rufa bring linen to our room for our trip to Pyeong. From there, I will return on March 5th through 7th. Greetings, Igor." End quote. Since Vizcay was a small village, there was not much beds, and the hotel was tiny. Making dinner took a while as the wood they used for the fire was raw firewood. After dinner, they went to see a movie called Symphony in Gold. Since there wasn't a lot of beds, 2 people slept in the same beds, and Kolevatov and Kravanishenka slept on the floor between the beds. On January 26th, the group woke up at 9 a.m. The temperature at that time was -17°C. The wood was so damp they couldn't boil any water. For breakfast, they had goulash and lukewarm tea, which Dyatlov would say jokingly, in quote, "If the tea is cold, then go drink it outside. It'll be hot." It was then they would travel to Settlement 41 by truck. The truck was in poor condition, as there was no shock absorbers and brakes, and even though the back was covered by a tent, it was still a very cold trip for them. Yudin begins to feel ill, but manages to make the trip. They arrived at the Settlement 41 at 4:30 p.m. and were greeted warmly as they were given separate hotel rooms. The group relaxed. Slobodin played his mandolin. Some made some adjustments to their equipment, and the rest watched movies in a different room. This would be their last night to sleep in beds. They watched 3 movies, Есть такой парень, On His Own, and Symphony in Gold again. Dubinina is writing in her journal about how she is in a bad mood and will remain feeling bad for 2 more days. As to what is causing Dubinina to be in a bad mood is uncertain, as she doesn't explain why she felt that way. But she expressed how she felt by adding 3 words at the end. Evil as hell. On January 27th, the group prepares for their trip on skis to the second northern settlement. The weather was very nice. Before leaving, they ate warm bread, learned Mansi words, and packed their backpacks up. Yuri Yudin informs the group that he is feeling worse, but decides to try and travel to the second northern settlement with them, hoping to feel better when they arrived. They said their goodbyes to their friends at Settlement 41, for they knew it would be the last time they would see civilization for a while. At 4 p.m., they started their journey with a man called Uncle Slava. For the trip to the second northern, he brought along his horse and sled for the hikers' backpacks to go on. Even though they had to ski their way to their destination, it makes their trip lighter and faster with the sled carrying their backpacks. The second northern was 24 kilometers from Settlement 41. They covered 8 kilometers in 2 hours. They finally make it to the second northern settlement at nightfall. The second northern is an abandoned geological site, and they were told that there would be a house that they could stay in. The settlement had 20 to 25 houses, some vehicles, warehouses, and machine tools too. All abandoned since 1952. There, the group lit the stove up in the house with some wooden boards and stayed the night there. In the morning, on January 28th, Yuri Yudin's condition did not change, and it was decided that he could no longer continue and would have to go back. Yudin was diagnosed with rheumatism and congenital heart defect. However, he wanted to collect some minerals from the area to take back with him. Yudin took a couple of men with him to help gather minerals. He was the group's geologist. Later in the morning, everyone packed up. Yudin said goodbye to his friends, not knowing that it would be the last time he would ever see any of them again. At 11:45 a.m., everyone departed. Yudin went back to Settlement 41 with Uncle Slava, while the rest of Dyatlov's group put on their backpacks and skied up the river of Lazva. They had to stop and scrape the melting snow under their skis from time to time, as it was warm and the snow was a little less. They then again stopped at 5:30 p.m. on the river Lazva, where they set up their tent for the first time that night. They set up Dyatlov's stove and sewed curtains out of sheets for the girls in the tent. After everything was set, they made dinner and sang songs by the campfire. Komogorova tries to learn to play the mandolin by Slobodin. as the rest discussed other things. While only 2 people could enter the tent at a time, they had a little issue as to who would sleep where. The 2 girls had their part of the tent on one side, while the boys had to figure out how they would sleep on the other, as nobody wanted to sleep by the stove. The men argued for a while. Soon, as things were settled, everything went quiet as they finally fell to sleep. January 29th. It was Doroshenko's birthday. He had just turned 21. The wind was not very strong and the temperature was 13 degrees Celsius. The 7 men in the group took turns cutting a trail for 10 minutes, and when they were all rotated, they took a break. They had to stop every 70 minutes. They soon head for the Ospia River, where they stopped for lunch at the 4th halt. There they continued until they saw a Mansi ski trail and followed it. They then spotted Mansi signs and also a strange platform, which is called a labaz, and took a few pictures of their findings. The Mansi are a tribe of people, a population of 8,000 people at that time. They live on the North Polar Urals and have written languages and leave characters on trees in the forest. It was getting late, and the Dyatlov group set the tent up again, got a fire going, and spent the night at the river. It was their 3rd cold night, but their stove does a great job of keeping everyone warm. On January 30th, they woke up at 8:30 a.m. The plan was to pack up and leave 8 minutes after they awoke. However, nobody wanted to do that. After a while, they had their breakfast and packed up everything again. It was negative 17 degrees Celsius. Finally, around 9:30 a.m., they start hiking again. The weather was a sunny day. Even though the day was cold, the sun was nice. They continued to follow the Mansi path. They kept seeing more Mansi writings on the trees. Nobody in the group knew the characters, so they could not be translated. They soon came to the shores of a river, and they lose the trail. It is 2 p.m., and they stop for lunch. Then they hike for a couple more hours, and then stop at 5 p.m. at night. They set up camp. Today was also a special day, as it was a day that Kolyvatov celebrated his birthday. Even though his birthday is in November, he chose this date to celebrate it. Why he chose that date on his birthday, we do not know. But he was given a tangerine that he separated into 8 slices and gave each one to the group. For some odd reason, Dubinina went into the tent and stayed in there until dinner ended. It is not explained why she went into the tent that night alone. For the group, another day has come and gone. The next day, on January 31st, the sky was clear, but the wind got worse and was blowing snow all over. They packed up and started traveling early. They came across the same Mansi trail and followed it again. There was a Mansi deer hunter that crossed that path not too long ago, as the trail and markers on the tree means there is a hunter not too far from them, and they were now on his path. They had a hard time seeing the trail, however, so they had to advance gropingly. They could only do 1 mile per hour. They came up with a plan to clear the path for the skis. One member of the group would leave their backpack and walk forever, and they would come back to rest for 10 to 15 minutes. Dyatlov and Kolyvatov left the group to go further up ahead to see how the condition of the area was, while everyone else prepares to gather firewood. Soon, Dyatlov and Kolyvatov come back, and Dyatlov is seen here in the photo talking to Zolotayov, as Zolotayov threw his jacket over his shoulders, listening to what Dyatlov was saying, and you can see on Zolotayov's face how serious the conversation is. Kolyvatov was listening to them as well and turning his head to look at the group behind Zolotayov. This photo was the moment that Dyatlov told Zolotayov his change of plans. Number 1. First plan would be to go back to the Ospia River for a warm and sheltered campsite. Number 2. they would make storage to leave extra loads. Number 3. They would continue to go to Mount Otterton without descending away from the pass. The standard route up to Mount Otterton was from Lozva River, but Dyatlov had something different in mind. Once they were on top of the pass, they would continue on the ridge and be very light from having no heavy weight, and they would hike easily and filmy on the ice on the ridge of Mount Kholat with no altitude lost, and they would spend a nice warm night on the lake. Number 4. They would then go up to Mount Otterton and then prepare to return back from their journey. The wind was making traveling harder. Its speed was the same as an airplane taking off. It was close to around 4 p.m. when they started looking for a place to set up the tent. Dyatlov thought by doing all of this, it would make more sense to just leave the extra load. We do not know what Zolotayev thought of this plan, as we can see the expression on his face how much he took into the idea of what Dyatlov was telling him. Maybe he was putting his faith in Dyatlov and agreed with the plan. Or maybe he didn't, and would maybe cause a problem for the group, and Zolotayev would confront Dyatlov. Or maybe there was a concern about a secret that he might have known, since he was in the military, and to where they were headed. We might never know, as nothing is mentioned of what was going on in Zolotayev's mind that day. While the three of them talked, the rest of the group kept gathering firewood for their stove. February 1st. All we know of this day is the group covered 2 kilometers only and pitched a tent on an open ridge for a very cold overnight without firewood, and that they had prepared a note for the ascent to Mount Otterton. But before they did that, the group wrote on Evening Otterton, the satirical propaganda leaflet. According to the book Mountains of the Dead by Keith McCloskey, someone in the group wrote on a piece of paper a day or 2 before the incident, and I quote, "Now we know snowmen exist." End of quote. Most people speculate that the person who wrote this is referring to a folklore creature called a Yeti. They took this photo as a sign of a big ape-like man watching them in the trees, and some people speculate that it is a Yeti, a giant humanoid figure that resembles that as a gorilla, but is more human-like, almost like the America's Bigfoot. But looking more closely at the photo, you can see the ski marks going up to the creature. And since some of the skiers were told to go up ahead without backpacks on, some people are now thinking that it is Nikolai coming back to the group from his turn of clearing the path, as he looks similar to his other photo. However, the theory of if the group actually saw a Yeti is unknown, as what they wrote could have just been a joke. On that same day, they did not use the stove, which might mean they were planning on using it when they returned back to the storage. They started hiking late as they were waiting for the weather to clear up. Then after riding the Evening Otterton, they built the storage and gathered firewood for their journey back. Then after lunch, Dyatlov led the group up the mountain Kholat. The group was not heading to Dyatlov's pass, as that pass was a place to go over Kholat Mountain if you were coming down. Because of this, some people believe that Dyatlov got lost and couldn't find the pass. However, this is not true. They didn't intend on going through the pass. They just wanted to gain altitude and stay on the ridge without firewood. The group traveled 2 kilometers, and around 3 p.m. they set up their campsite for the night. This, however, would be their last day and night alive, and this photo was the last proof of them being alive that day. February 2nd. Everyone in the Dyatlov group is dead. Their bodies laying outside of their ripped tent down the slope, separated from each other, laying cold in the snow with injuries that cannot be explained. Some bodies only sustained bruises and cuts. Others had fractured skulls. But the most mysterious injuries was from a force so strong it is said to be similar to that of a car accident. 2 people in the group suffered multiple fractures to the ribs. They were both missing their eyes, and one of them suffered internal bleeding, and their tongue was missing. To what horrible fate allowed these 2 people to suffer so much more serious pain than that of the other group members? For now, all this is still a mystery. The horrible fate that came to these 9 experienced hikers hopefully will come to the surface, as there were many theories as to what could have happened to them while on their journey over the Kholat Mountain. Thank you so much for watching and listening to this tragic true story. I will be posting a part 3 video about the theories of their death, and also will be talking about the investigation that has been done and is still going on today. They reopened this case again last year, and hopefully with the technology that we have now, we might finally figure out what happened to these young hikers. So join me again on my next video about the 9 hikers' death theory soon. Thank you so much, and like and subscribe if you'd like to see more of my videos. Till next time everyone, peace out.